Dave Himel Bros Leather. This is a reintroduction video to Himel Bros TV. I don't know if you know this, but we had a lot of YouTube content during the pandemic, mostly due to my boredom. I am not a filmmaker. I don't want to do media content. I fucking hate this. But in order for us to defeat the algorithm and for people to see what's happening with my brand, I'm relaunching my YouTube channel, Himel Bros TV. So if you want to help me defeat the algorithm, you got to subscribe, you got to like it, you got to share it with people. So if you're seeing this, you probably already know who I am. You got to help a brother out. And why am I launching it? I am generally a very political person. I love politics. I talk to every customer. If they ask me what I think, I will share it, but I try to keep it out of my social media. Definitely for the channel. We live in an interesting time. The algorithm now promotes anger, rage, sexy ladies, but people like me who actually do stuff, we don't show up. I make things. I've spent 35 years of my life becoming an expert on a weird little topic, leather jackets. And I run a little shop, and I visit tanneries, and I make stuff, and I know about these things. That's not, I Googled it. That's not research on the internet. That's real life experience. The second reason I'm launching the channel is because we're living in a hyper reality now. It's hyper normal. It's hyper bullshit. Everybody's a heritage brand. Some guy or some woman says they're making stuff heritage. It's being made in Pakistan or it's being made in China. It's being imported. It's made with child fingers, bloody little child fingers. It's all garbage. It's all nonsense. No one knows what reality is anymore. They're all doing the research. No one knows what research is. I need to relaunch our Himel Bros TV to try and teach people in a positive way how things are made, why they're made, what makes something good, what makes something bad. And the only way I can do that is to produce more media content. So we're going to try. We're going to explore in a positive way. We're not going to crap talk, shit talk other brands. We're going to talk about the brands we love. We're going to talk about what makes a great jacket. We're going to talk about how they're made, what the upsides are, what the full skill set and suite of knowledge is. We're going to share it all so that if you want to go out and you want to be part of a brand or you want to buy something beautiful, that you understand why it is what it is and what the upsides are, what the downsides are, what the costs are, why something made here is more real than something made there, because that's a complicated topic. We're going to talk about the processes. What's the differences between leather? What is the business model that makes one thing this price and something else that price? We're mostly going to do that because since I started with my heron jacket in 2008, you can now buy 20 different versions of the very design that I created from a vintage jacket. You can now go on the internet and everybody is a vintage expert, not the 30, 40 people that actually are experts. You can go on the internet and you can purchase, I just did this the other day, you can purchase a sort of replica that looks very credible from a Chinese factory for 1/15 to 1/20th the price of a brand, for example, from Japan. And then the question becomes, okay, so why buy from the brand in Japan versus the little factory in China, right? Those questions need to be answered, and they need to be answered in a way that helps you guys understand why you're supporting different brands and what's happening. And the further last bit to this piece, I was watching some fashion influencers channels on Instagram, and they had written some scripts about the history of leather jackets with ChatGPT or some AI. And I could hear the words from my own writing from the mid-2000s when I wrote a blog called The Art of Vintage Leather Jackets. I did real research. I have a background in film history. I held thousands of vintage leather jackets in my hands. I explored them. I took them apart. I became bored and I started writing a blog in which not only did I explore those jackets from the perspective of company, from the perspective of history, from the perspective of maker, but I contacted the few makers that were still alive and I would interview them. I would Google archives and look up the information I could find on the various companies. I would assemble from my broad picture of how these different companies function in a manufacturing, in a competition, in a market sense, and what was available at that time to try and build propositions as to what the history around those jackets were. Not definitive, but ideas. Some of that has been more defined since the 2008, 9, and 10s, but a lot of it is just pure bullshit. And AI just goes around grabbing little pieces of, some of it is real information, a lot of it is garbage information, and it removes the authors and it removes the research. Real research means going to original materials. Real research means looking at and interviewing the original characters and the original objects and the original histories and advertisements, and then trying to build a less conjectural viewpoint. And from that perspective, I sit in a unique position because I don't just make the jackets. I don't just work with the team. I don't just have probably 100 years of knowledge on our team about how these things were made, but I also have a massive collection of jackets. Now everybody can see everything on the internet. That doesn't really give you a perspective. And I have a massive compendium of contextual history about how a lot of these jackets were made. It's not just in my cultural heritage. It's not just in my grandparents who were in the clothing business. It's not just in my interviews with these people, but it's also in the understanding that sometimes things aren't the way they appear. So we're going to relaunch the channel and show you our underpants, so to speak. I'm not a hot lady in a bikini. I'm a smart guy who has a bikini-like closet full of information about how jackets came to be and how they were made and why they were made and how they're made today. I've seen a lot of discussion of different brands pretending to be things they're not. And we're gonna sort of unmask what these things are that make brands more real, what their value propositions are, without naming any particular brand. We're just gonna do it by sharing the knowledge of how these things are made and what to look for and how to understand the market, how to understand leather and how leather's made and where it's made and how the people who work there make it. We're going to talk about how designs are made and why they're made. And we're going to talk about the difference between little companies and large companies and medium companies and the global fashion market. And we're going to talk about my brand fundamentally as well and what you're getting and why it is what it is and why it costs what it costs. It's going to be an exciting year because hopefully we're relaunching a all made in the USA product, an all made in Japan product, and if things go well enough, an all made in Europe product. But not just that, we're going to launch ready to wear lines, and we're going to continue doing our true bespoke custom leather jackets. It's very hard for me to convey the experiences of my customers, and it's very hard for me to call on them to convey it, but I'm hoping that all you guys and women participating in my channel will share it and become engaged, send me interesting questions, participate, subscribe, and let's grow this tribe of mine around Himel Bros leather jackets. So thanks, like, subscribe, like me, send me stupid questions. We can talk about tariffs and all sorts of nonsense garbage. And I'll see you in the next video.